Okay, my friends, one small step for mankind, one giant leap for the human mind. This is going to be serious now, and it is serious, but all I can do is present it in a humorous way because it's so serious you can only take it humorously. This, I'm going to tell you right now, that's biology, and that is the dark side of our moon. Now get ready and all of the moons that I can find have this same characteristic. And I'll show you what I think it is and why I say it is biology. And then we will go from there. And then we're going to get into the ancient texts that talked about these things in a most insane way, but there appears to be some substance to it. So I say that is biological. Now I'm going to show you the evidence. Okay, like I said, this is a shocker. This is a tendon enthesis, and that means it's an anchor. It goes into your bone or wherever it goes into and locks in. And then there's a strap. This strap is like a tendon, and it runs to a muscle or whatever, and the muscle does all the work, and the tendon just gives it just a little bit of spring. And that's what these are, but they have to be anchored somehow, and that's what anchors them. And they have all these little wrinkly things all over the surface of it. And I believe this is where they're showing the vein and the artery coming down to service the ball. Now, that's a moon, and I believe that's Tethys or Mimas, or it could be just about any of them. They all have the same thing. All of them that I can find. And even Iapetus has what's called an equatorial ridge. I'll show you that. And I've found tendon balls, and like I call them tendon balls. And these balls are everywhere on Earth. I mean, they're everywhere. And they can be absolutely gigantic. And as you can see, they can be moons, too. And that's that little snap that snaps off in the center, just as I showed you a second ago. Hold on. All right, this just gives you a little more understanding of the layers of tissue. You see, they're even showing it blue. But when that snapped off, this little piece came off of here. This is just the growing phase of it. And you can see there's different layers of tissue. Exactly what you see when you look at these craters. There's different layers of tissue. And this one here is the goopy one. It's like your skin. This one, and then below that you have your fleshy stuff, and then below that you have your bone or whatever. Think of it that way. Okay, that's Mimas, and that's the crater. They call it the Herschel crater. Well, it's just like the rest of them. All right, there's another moon, Tethys. There's a crater. All right, this is Mimas, another moon, and for some reason they got that little dot right over the middle of I believe where the tendon strap came down to hold it there. That's all I can tell you. They're all basically the same. Now, basically, all the moons are considered deities in the ancient times. And in Greek mythology, Iapetus was a Titan deity of mortality. He was the son of the primordial deities Gaia and Uranus, right, which is the earth and the sky, who helped restrain Uranus and thus become the west pillar that held up the sky. Later he was banished to Tartarus for fighting against the gods and became a bearer of the entire cosmos. So that's Iapetus. Now let me show you, you can see that here. Let me show you what Iapetus looks like close, but there's that same spot they all have. All right, that's Iapetus, and that's the equatorial ridge around it. And it's got one of these big spots here. There's another one here. I found these tendon balls with two entries just like that and single entries. All right, this is the one I talked about just a second ago, Tethys. You see, I'm sorry, this is Iapetus, but it's just another moon, and it's got the anchor spot either there or there. I'm not sure which, but they all have that same little spot like this. Now, why do we see different colors here? What's that about? Different substances in different molecules and different layers of tissue have different chemistry. And the red is more of a fleshy chemistry. Blue is a substrate, it appears. And I don't know, but there is chemistry that goes along with this, because these are all transition metal colors, you see? And transition metals will stabilize something, and that's why I find them in the mud fossils all the time, the transition metals accumulated into certain areas, just like this. Now, what is that spot and what's that spot? Why are they there? And why is this red thing so round and perfect and all this? And look at how this gets all scruffy looking around the outside, and it's nice and smooth here. See how it's nice and smooth? And then it drops down from there, down another layer. And then it sort of blends into what I would call the entire substrate is in the blue. But above that is these layers of tissue, because this is biology. All these little craters and all that, I'm sure there's a ton of craters that are from impacts, but they're not all impacts, and these aren't impacts at all. Those two aren't impacts. That's a vein and an artery. And that's the artery, and that's the vein. And here's how I can show you why. I'm going to show you a different picture of this. This is the one that's a little more clear. Now, this is as it's shadowed, and this is the shadow part, and you can see the colors. But you see that little pinch right there? That's a valve. Veins can only go one way, and it goes back this way, going back to where the heart would have been in a creature. Right? And if they try to go back this way, that valve would pinch right off and flatten right out. Artery is totally different situation. You go up and down anywhere you want with the artery. They're wide open. Veins have valves, and that's it right there. There's a valve. And here's the same stuff. All right, these are the tendon balls, and they anchor, and these little straps come off them, and the strap popped off. That's what happened to all those little balls. See that? That's iapetus. They call it the equatorial ridge. I see these in the tendon balls that are right here on Earth. A lot of them have that equatorial ridge. Well, not a lot. That's actually kind of exceptional. Most of them are fairly smooth on the outside, just basically round. But they all have all these pock marks. And what that does is when the flesh surrounds it, it anchors it. They're not going to pull out of here. All these little pock marks are like little anchors, are like Velcro. All right, let's continue on here. I've shown you all the moons. I've shown you the tendon balls and how the different separation of the layers and where the blood and the vein and artery are in there. And, as far as I can see, that's what it is. Now, there's mimus and techus and so forth. And they all have the same thing. They all have that big spot there, techus. Now, what else is in space? Well, there's comets and meteorites and meteors and all kinds of things. Well, let's take a look at a comet. This is Comet 67P. All right, this is a hip joint. That is a tendon bundle that comes up to one way or the other, comes out here. These are tendon fibers. That is the ball that I'll show you right now. Now don't forget, this is a hip. So what we're looking at is this, here it is right down here. What we're looking at is this. This is a different shot of it. So there's the ball, there's the neck coming down, and there's some tendinous fibers in there, and then there's a bundle that came over here. You got to be able to twist your hip back and forth. So you need a tendon coming one way and a tendon going the other way. So that's what this is. There's two different sets of tendons, basically. And then it came off here and it just snapped right off. And this is what they look like when they fracture. Now, the one we were just looking at, they can fracture way down here on the neck. They can fracture out here. And they can actually fracture right across this line, too. And I think we're looking at one that's more like this, or maybe a little more like that, but it's the ball and it's the neck, and then wrapped around it is all the muscly stuff. Hold on, let me find, hold on a second. Oh, here it is right here. You see, remember I said there's like a tendon bundle going off to the side? You got to be able to pull this thing back and forth a little bit. So that's the bundle we saw going off to the side. This is the head of the thing. And it's broken somewhere down here. And this is big. This is gigantic. Don't forget, this is that little hip joint spot there. And here's what it looks like when the sun hits it just the right way and burns off in the arteries and in the blood vessels. And it's actually cooking just like a gas grill. Astronauts say when they go out on spacewalks and they come back inside, when they take their suits off, it smells like steak and burning metals. That's all that blood is burning metals. Blood is almost 100% metals. The rest is just fluids. I mean, there's a couple other things of chemistry in there, but it's saturated with metals, absolutely saturated. And those are the things that transfer everything through your body. And that's also, as a matter of fact, it's right here. These are the kind of metals that are in your blood. And there's 26 that they test for to see how healthy you are. 26 different metals. And they have to be in certain ratios. And the metal goes to the core and it carries all these other particles around through, transition metals form colored compounds or complexes, just like you saw the different colors on the moon. And they have a metal ion with a charge on it, and then groups of atoms called ligands attach around that metal ion core. This is in aqueous, watery solutions. The ions form complexes with the colors shown to the right. That's where all that blood flows through, and it's got all these different molecules attached. And when they get where they've got to be used, they drop them off and they pick up something else. These are transition metals, and very important in your body chemistry. All right, if you understand anything about space, out in space you're getting hit by some serious radiation, and it cooks things when it's close enough to the source of the radiation. And that's what happens when these comets come in close to our sun. They start to glow, to start to have a trail. They say, oh, that's the solar wind pushing off dust. It's not dust. It is gases that are from burning steak. It says, those who traverse the International Space Station compared the smell to burnt steak. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Space scientists have said the source of the metallic burnt meat stink can be attributed to polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons found in charred foods on Earth. They're found from charred foods out in space as well. All right, so we know that these molecules that are in heavy metals, and just metals in general because they're flowing through your body, are from charred foods on Earth. All right, so they're smelling this cooking stuff, and here's why they cook off. That's an artery. And I mean a big one, and the sun is hitting it just right, and that's the only part that's cooking off. There's nothing cooking off of here. When it hit in here where the blood vessels were, and they went right down into where the blood vessel blood is, these are cooking off barbecue gases. These are the little blood vessels that run up from down where it's fed with the artery, and they run up into the tissue that surrounds it. Everything's got to be fed by blood. But this one here, that thing there is 500 feet wide. Here it is right here. You see that? That's 40 meters. And I think there's about 4 of them across here. That's 160 or so meters. And that's about 500 feet. Every one of those little dragon balls, they call them dragon balls. Those are the little blood vessels go in to service all of the tissue. You got to service every single tissue, every single cell. I mean, on a continuous basis. So that's what that was, and you saw what it looks like when it was intact. Well, from a different angle. Now here's how big it is. That's Raleigh, North Carolina. This is the size of 67p. That's how big it is. That'd be a bad day to be sitting down here having lunch. That's serious. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is biology. And they talked about battles in the heavens, and we're seeing this. I mean, that's some kind of biology, my friends. That's all I can tell you. And I don't know how you take this news, but it's something to consider. If these myths were real, and a lot of the ancient stories that were told, and the gods and everything existed, because they were the ones that created these planets and these moons and so forth. And the planets are like some of the gods, you know, Saturn and Uranus and Pluto and Neptune. Saturn, they were all gods. And I'm seeing no reason to doubt that all was pretty accurate. You know, all I can say is this is Apollodorus. And this is just spectacular, crazy stuff, but it appears to have some basis in fact. They're talking about Zeus. And he was trying to fight against the Titans. He waged war against Kronos and the Titans. All right, they fought for 10 years. Now, Zeus had the lightning bolt and thunderbolt and lightning, and Pluto bestowed a helmet on Poseidon. He gave a trident. So Pluto got the helmet and Poseidon got the trident. Armed with these weapons, the gods overcame the Titans, shut them up in Tartarus, and literally ate them into the earth. That's what there was giants in the earth in those days. All right, and when they eventually got released from the earth, and it was a nightmare on earth. And here's Iapetus, there's one of the moons. And they're talking about Iapetus in Asia was born Atlas. You got Prometheus. Zeus smote all the Titans with thunderbolts, hurled them down into Tartarus. Giants in the earth in those days. There's a lot that we don't understand, but there was a lot that was written that makes sense once you understand where I'm coming from. So understanding the mud fossils and then seeing these things in space, it's very hard to dismiss the fact that there's a good possibility of these crazy, spectacular things being true. I don't see any other way you can account for this. And I'm going to tell you right now, all of the meteorites coming through space, coming to Earth, they have blood inside of them, the iron ones. They're all, there's blood in them right now. I have one here with blood in it. It's a tiny little lung. And there's no question it has blood in it. So everything, as far as I'm concerned, I haven't found one thing that's not biology, not a single thing on Earth, or anywhere in space. Anywhere. That's why space smells like steak. Everything out there is cooking. And I think it was someplace in there where God said he loved the smell of cooking meat. Something like that. That's I'd have to look that one up, but I believe I saw that somewhere. Well, here it is. Does God like the smell of burning meat? This is from Exodus. And take them from their hands and burn them on the altar along with the burnt offerings for a pleasing aroma to the Lord, a food offering presented to the Lord. He likes the smell. Right? He says numerous times when explaining the sacrifices, God speaks of the smell coming from the altars as a pleasing aroma. Now, we all like the smell of a barbecue roasting steaks or grilling hamburgers, but is this what God meant? And it appears he did, because he wanted the firstborn to be sacrificed to him. And I think it was even children and human beings as well as animals. I think that's what I read somewhere. All right. This is from a channel called The Ultimate Discovery, and they're talking about an astronaut revealing a discovery of something terrifying on the moon. And I'm just going to let it play, and you hear what he has to say.
A terrifying secret. It was a stormy evening when Commander Vance's grandchildren gathered around his bedside, their eyes wide with anticipation as they listened to their grandfather's fading voice. With trembling hands, he reached for a worn-out journal tucked beneath his pillow, its pages filled with memories of a journey that transcended the limits of imagination. "Listen closely," he began, his voice raspy yet firm. "Before I embarked on the Apollo 17 mission, I received a classified briefing from NASA. They revealed to me a truth so profound, so utterly terrifying, that it haunted my every step on the lunar surface. During their exploration of a desolate crater while on the lunar surface, the crew stumbled upon an ancient structure buried beneath the lunar dust. An artifact of extraterrestrial origin. Its unearthly design and enigmatic symbols spoke of a civilization far more advanced than humanity could comprehend. In that moment," Commander Vance continued in his trembling voice, "we realized that we were not alone in the universe. The truth we uncovered was more horrifying than any of us could have imagined." His last words, uttered in a voice that was barely above a whisper, "It's time the world knew the truth. We are not alone, and the darkness that awaits us, it's coming." And with those final words, Commander Thomas Vance closed his eyes for the last time, leaving behind a legacy fraught with uncertainty and fear. Do you agree with Commander Vance that there are other advanced civilizations within the vast expanse of our universe? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The moon landing mystery. Up until now...
Yes, I obviously believe that the whole universe is completely saturated with life. So that's my commentary.
Now, they've delved into one of the major mysteries surrounding the moon, and the experiences of Michael Collins in that realm. But there's another captivating aspect tied to Michael in the Apollo 11 mission. Back in 2018, Joe Rogan, known as the world's top podcaster, stumbled upon an extraordinary image that raised doubts about the entire moon landing and the Apollo 11 mission. During an episode of his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, Joe Rogan welcomed Ben Azrin, a former notable mixed martial arts fighter, for a conversation about space exploration and the moon landing. Among the topics discussed was a questionable photo supposedly illustrating the moon landing, featuring Michael Collins. The photo was first released in Collins's 1974 book, Carrying the Fire. Strangely, this image seems to be unique to that publication and isn't widely circulated elsewhere. Despite its scarcity, those who have seen the image often speculate about its authenticity, with many leaning toward the belief that it might be a forgery. This discovery adds another layer of interest to the already mysterious story of the Apollo 11 mission. The famous photo of astronaut Michael standing on the moon might not be what it seems. Some say he's not on the lunar surface at all, but in a room made to look like space. Michael standing in a dark room with a blurry backdrop, meant to mock the largeness of space. Surprisingly, NASA hasn't confirmed or denied this claim. However, many people have noticed similarities between this photo and another one supposedly taken during astronaut training. The only difference is that the space version looks more blurry and dark. Critics of the moon landing theory also argue that if astronauts were truly in space, the camera footage wouldn't look so perfect. They suggest that celestial radiation would affect the film, causing misshaping. But in this photo, everything seems clear except for the blurriness, without any visible signs of radiation. Some assume that astronauts might have used specially crafted cameras during the Apollo 11 mission to capture these images. So the mystery of Michael's moonwalk continues to interest doubters and space enthusiasts alike.
All right, let me just cut to the chase. I don't care whether they went to the moon or not. What I'm concerned about is what the moon is, and what the rest of the solar system is, and what the rest of the planets are, and what eternity is like. That's what I'm interested in. You know, they could have lied about the whole thing. I have no idea. And the funny thing is, I'm watching this show right now. It's called all for all mankind, something like that. Yeah, I think it's for all mankind, and it's basically the same thing that they're talking about. How we had a space race with the Russians to get to the moon, and who was the best and so forth. So they might have made it all up. I have no idea. But they didn't make this up. These things are here. These things can be seen. There's no question about it. And when you understand mud fossils, and you understand what a vein looks like versus an artery, and when you understand what these different layers of tissue look like, then you can understand we're in a whole new ball game now, my friends. So, what it means to you, I don't know. What it means to me, I still don't know. But I'm going with Jesus is the one that was sent here in peace. And I don't see a whole lot of that going on. So he said, follow me, make sure you look for me. I'm your guy, I'm going to take care of you. But you're going to have to believe in me and stop doing any bad stuff you're doing right now. And if you do, you got a chance. That's what I'm hoping for. That's my hope. All right, I'm going to let it go, but believe me, this is a lot more serious than most people give account of. They just think it's one of those things. Wow, that's interesting. Well, eternity is a very, very long time, and if you start reading all of the texts that I've read, it'll shake you up a little bit. I suppose I'll leave it at that. I love you all. Hopefully you find something of value out of this, other than just to scare you, because it is scary. But that's what life is. It's just life is a scary proposition, and I think it's here so that you understand what your obligations are, and either you take them serious or you don't. Then that's up to you.